Okay, so next we're going to go into samplers, and I want to just focus for a quick second on a little terminology here. So samples and samplers. Okay, when we talk about a sample, we could be talking about a lot of different stuff, and we've already talked about this a little bit. But it's even more important when we talk about samplers. So a sampler is essentially just another synthesizer, another type of synthesis. Okay? Everything is the same, but the only thing that's different from between a sampler and the other types of synthesis that we've already talked about is the oscillator. Okay? The oscillator in a sampler is just playing an audio file, the sample. Make sense? So instead of the oscillator generating a sine wave or a square wave, what the sampler is doing is playing the sample. But everything after that is the same. So the oscillator section is the sample player, and then the sample goes into filters, envelopes, LFOs. All of that stuff is still in there, and it works exactly the same after we play around with the sample a little bit. Okay, so the sample in this case is a little nugget of audio. It can be a whole track if you want. It's not usually, but it could be. And it can be just like a tiny little snare hit, right? Or a kick or something like that. In some instruments, we can control multiple samples at once, and there are reasons to do that. And in some, we just use a single sample for the whole instrument. And there are reasons to do that. So I'll talk about that more in the next couple of videos. So a sampler is something that plays samples, but the reason I want to separate these in your head is because you might be thinking, well, I can just play samples, right? Like I can just drag a sample into Live or whatever software you're using into the timeline and hit play, right? Yes, you can. You can just play samples that way. The difference in what a sampler does is it treats the sample as an oscillator in a synthesizer, meaning that sample is only the start of what you can do with it. You can run it through filters, envelopes, LFOs, blah, 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 all that stuff. So it gives us easier access to those things, and that's why we like using samplers sometimes. Okay. I think I explained that. Cool. Let's move on.